Abomina. This is the New Year speech from our president, Bola Tinubu. You understand? That welcomed us into 2024. It's a long one. I would like you to listen to it to the end. Then you get to listen to the reaction from my Rise Television, Rufai, Oseni, and Ruben, Dr. Ruben Abati. Then I would like to get your own reaction and comment from it. But after that, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please, thank you.
Sure, we have a Nigerian society that cares for all our citizens is the reason I ran to become your president. It was the core of my renewed hope campaign message, on the basis of which you voted me as president. Everything I have done in office, every decision I've taken, and every trip I've undertaken outside the shores of our land since I assumed office on 29th May 2023 have been done in the best interest of our country. Over the past 7 months of our administration, I have taken some difficult and yet necessary decisions to save our country from fiscal catastrophe. One of those decisions was the removal of fuel subsidy, which had become an unsustainable financial burden on our country for more than 4 decades. Another was the removal of the chokehold of few people on our foreign exchange system that benefited only the rich and the most powerful among us. Without doubt, these two decisions brought some discomfort to individuals, families, and businesses. I am well aware that for some time now, the conversations and debate have centered on the rising cost of living, high inflation, which is now above 28%, and the unacceptable high underemployment rate. From the boardroom at the broad streets in Lagos to the main street of Kano and Nembe Creeks in Bayelsa, I hear the groans of Nigerians who work hard every day to provide for themselves and their families. I'm not oblivious of the expressed and sometimes unexpressed frustrations of my fellow citizens. I know for a fact that some of our compatriots are even asking if this is how our administration wants to renew their hope. Dear compatriots, take this from me. The time may be rough and tough. However, our spirit must remain unbowed because tough times never last. We are made for this period, never to flinch, never to falter. The socio-economic challenges of today should energize and rekindle our love and faith in the promise of Nigeria. Our current circumstances should make us resolve to work better for the good of our beloved nation. Our situation should make us resolve that this new year, 2024, each and every one of us will commit to be better citizens. Silently, we have worked to free captives from abductors. While we can't beat our chest yet that we had solved all the security problems, we are working hard to ensure that we all have peace of mind in our homes, places of work, and on the roads. Having laid the groundwork of our economic recovery plans within the last 7 months of year 2023, we are now poised to accelerate the pace of our service delivery across the sectors. Just this past December, during COP28 in Dubai, the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, and I agreed and committed to a new deal to speed up the delivery of Siemens energy power projects that will ultimately deliver reliable supply of electricity to our homes and businesses under the Presidential Power Initiative, which began in 2018. Other power installation projects to strengthen the reliability of our transmission lines and optimize the integrity of our national grid are ongoing across the country. My administration recognizes that no meaningful economic transformation can happen without steady electricity supply. In year 2024, we are moving a step further in our quest to restart local refinery of petroleum products with Port Harcourt Refinery and the Dangote Refinery, which shall fully come on stream. To ensure constant food supply, security, and affordability, we will step up our plan to cultivate 500,000 hectares of farmland across the country to grow maize, rice, wheat, millet, and other staple crops. We launched the dry season farming with 120,000 of land in Jigawa State last November under our National Wheat Development Program. And this new year, we will race against time to ensure all the fiscal and tax policies reforms we need to put in place are codified and simplified to ensure the business environment does not destroy value. On every foreign trip I have embarked on, my message to investors and other business people has been the same. Nigeria is ready and open for business. I will fight every obstacle that impedes business competitiveness in Nigeria, and I will not hesitate to remove any clog hindering our path to making Nigeria a destination of choice for local and foreign investments. In my 2024 budget presentation to the National Assembly, I listed my administration's 8 priority areas to include national defense and internal security, job creation, macroeconomic stability, investment environment, optimization, human capital development, poverty reduction, and social security. Because we take our development agenda very seriously, our 2024 budget reflects the premium we place on achieving our governance objectives. We will work diligently to make sure every Nigerian feels the impact of their government, the economic aspirations, and the material well-being of the poor, the most vulnerable, and the working people shall not be bright and brighter to illuminate our path to a glorious dawn. I wish all of us a happy and prosperous year 2024. May God continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Indeed, God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Rufai, it's a new year, new speech by the President.
New year, new speech. Happy New Year to you, Aya. Happy New Year to you, Dr. Abati. Happy New Year to Nigerians out there. Happy New Year to President Tinubu. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And Happy New Year, world. New Year, new speech. It came up on a positive note. Said a lot of things, reassured Nigerians that he understands the pain and suffering. But I'll say it's not just about understanding the pain and suffering. What are you going to do about it? I'm happy you said for yourself, President Tinubu, that people are beginning to ask, is this a renewed hope you promised? Yes, people are beginning to ask. Just like it was seen when you went to the mosque in Lagos Island where people were screaming at the background, "Ibin Pawa." What it means is people are hungry. He said a lot of other things, struck all the positive notes, reassured a lot of Nigerians, called them, rallied them to success, said he's going to do a lot of things. But in that speech, I did not hear a tribute, at least some thought, for those that were killed in Jos. Attacks, Christmas period. And that's very fresh in our memories. I think it was only right to have paid tribute to them. Because these people are not just statistics. Only yesterday I was speaking to a very prominent Nigerian I will not want to mention. And she told me how one of those that were killed was somebody that worked with her, that he pretty much traveled on the 23rd. And she was telling him, oh, just wait, after Christmas you can go home. But he got to his destination, and before or by Christmas he was killed already. So these people are not just statistics. They had dreams, they had family members, they had things they wanted to do in their life. They too had aspirations of 2024 being their year, like we all say. But Nigeria failed them. So I'll have thought that President Tinubu will have spared the thought for them. He talked about some high points. So what are the high points? He talked about, the Siemens deal that he spoke to with Ola Shaw. And we'd like to see that deal happen, because we too will want electricity to be able to power our industries. But I think when that deal was talked about, Dr. Abati here said something very instructive that Ola Shaw said. He said it's incumbent on us to go and fix our home, that the Germans are ready. So have we done that? This deal has been in the pipeline since 2018. All the timelines exceeded. By now, if we had followed through that deal, we ought to be getting some measurable amount of megawatts of electricity now. But it's taken us a while. The same Siemens did not see any bottlenecks in working with Egypt. One of the presidential candidates, Peter Obi, had to go and learn from Egypt. But we've been on this. 2018 till this time, you can do the math of how many years that has been. 6 years down the line. So are we going to get it? That's a big question. Secondly, President Tinubu talked about, investment in agriculture, 500 hectares of production and all of that. I'm taken aback a bit, and I'd like to ask, President Tinubu gave a speech a couple of months ago where he rolled out the subsidies. The palliatives for the subsidy removal. That was a speech I lauded, because I felt at a time where a lot of Nigerians needed his input, he said all the right things. And I remember I gave a caveat when he gave that speech, and asking all those palliatives that if properly implemented. But down the line, most of those things have not been properly implemented. One of the promises he made then was 150,000 hectares to be planted across states for different crops. So I'm wondering, what happened to that 150,000 hectares? At least if he had planted that 150,000 hectares, we should be having some crops come out now to be able to cushion the effect. So he's announcing another 500,000 hectares. So what happened to the hitherto announcement he made? That's the first one I'd like to ask. I think we need to be able to balance things out. He talked about other things, some tax reforms he's been planning will also come into play and all of that. Yes. And also he talked about the budget. So the budget I want to talk about, because only yesterday an extra 1.2 trillion was added to the budget on Saturday before it was passed. And that was a breach of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. And a lot of people are complaining that this is reckless. Also, the 7.3 trillion to securitize ways and means. I'm sure Mr. Tilayo Alibaji will be here today. Always talks about it's illegal to securitize ways and means. But my shock is, in about the first year you got in, 7.3 trillion securitizing ways and means. I thought we blamed the last administration for over 20 trillion in ways and means. Isn't that something we should watch? So I hope when the tax reforms and everything kick in, there will be full prosperity in the land. Then he called on his opponents. Yes, he constantly says that let's come together. Elections have been won and lost. That's a good one. But also we must be able to deepen our electoral system. You see, because what we fail to realize is, it's not about partisanship, what happened in the last election. It was a destruction of the electoral body and the destruction of the belief Nigerians had in the electoral system. That was what happened. So what are the reforms? Are we going to see the reforms in the new year? So these are part of the things we should look at in the speech. But all in all, very optimistic. Some will say it was low on detail, but the question people also ask is, it's not a policy speech. It's just a new year, feel-good speech and all of that. But I feel they missed some critical points. I also hit the nail on some critical points. And only time will tell if this resonates with a lot of people.
All right.
Well, what time will tell, that is very clear. So this morning, is that his speech delivered this morning by the president is dated. It is too obvious that that speech was recorded before the president came to Lagos, because the speech is not contemporaneous enough. And that, I think, is in itself, a scandal. It shows gross indolence on the part of those people who manage the president. And I speak as a person who had gone through this process before. Now, you could see from that delivery that since the speech was recorded in Abuja, I imagine, that there have been developments in the country. A major development will be the killings on the plateau. That was conspicuously absent in that speech. I had said, well, the president maybe did not need to go. They are having sent a very powerful delegation. But to they speak to Nigerians on New Year Day and not reflect his awareness and understanding of the killings on the plateau, and considering the fact that only yesterday, 5 more persons were murdered in Boko's local government area, just shows and confirms how dated that speech is. And I put it down to the indolence of his managers. Because wherever the president is, there's enough facility to update speeches, to change recordings. It's not as if it's a lengthy presentation. They could have updated the speech, do a fresh recording yesterday, and it will have been up to date. The other major omission is that on Saturday, the National Assembly of Nigeria passed the 2024 appropriation bill, although there are many problems with that, as analysts have pointed out, specifically Dr. Dele Shubowale, saying that that budget is dead on arrival, and that the only indications that you could pick out of it as a professional economist is scarcity, uncertainty, and chaos, and that 2024 will be a more difficult year for Nigerians. But the president will have piggybacked on the details of what the Senate did and also addressed that, because that's also something very fresh. But there was no reference to that in that speech. Now, to the details. The president said we voted for him because he promised us renewed hope, and that he's working hard at it and is committed to delivering on that. And he said a number of things that are important to him. Food scarcity, to address food scarcity, to address electricity supply, to address the refineries. Would the refineries work? There's no certainty in that regard. And maybe that's the uncertainty that Dele Shubowale is talking about. Now he's talking about food supply. What is the guarantee that you can have food supply if there is still insecurity in the country? The president says in that speech, in fact, that security in the country has improved. Now, how do you say that to Nigerians just less than a week after people were being killed almost on a daily basis in over 58 communities in Plateau? How does that provide a justification for the claim that you make? He said electricity supply. At a time when power generation, power supply, power distribution in Nigeria is in the dark alley of 4,000 megawatts for over 200 million people. So how is that improvement in power supply? The president also talked about his commitment to attracting foreign investment, FDI, at a time within the same week that the National Bureau of Statistics announced to us that capital importation to the country has fallen, and that 27 states of the Federation attracted zero importation of capital. And at a time where we've been told that companies are leaving Nigeria, P&G has left, Jumia may follow, ShopRite is following, other companies like that are leaving Nigeria in droves. Is this contradiction not clear to the president and the drafters of his message on New Year Day? However, he admitted that there is a lot of hardship in the country as a result of foreign exchange crisis and the removal of fuel subsidy. But the economists argue that fuel subsidy, in fact, has not been removed. That fuel subsidy, in fact, is returning and that if care is not taken in 2024, fuel subsidy will return in full force. Now, the president then puts the responsibility on all of us. He said in that piece that we are joint heirs of the Commonwealth, and we also have a responsibility. Yes, we the people have a responsibility, but what we keep saying is that government cannot keep telling us to make sacrifice, and government is not listening. The conspicuous consumption that was demonstrated by way of the president going to the mosque to go and pray on Friday in Lagos, and he had a convoy that looked like he was going to war. Nobody goes to the mosque to go and wage war. They go there to pray to God, to seek the face of God. I mean, I've been part of a presidential convoys at home and abroad when I served in government. The convoy that I saw on that Friday just to go to mosque, I think that was unprecedented. And Lagos being the major political base of the president, you ask the question, what is he afraid of? So when it comes to us on New Year Day, and it says we the people must make sacrifice because the country belongs to all of us, well, are our leaders showing that this country belongs to all of us, and they themselves are ready to make the necessary sacrifice? The other point that I find disturbing in the president's New Year message, and I hope they won't do it again, by paying attention to necessary details, is that it is full of, again, promises. 7 months after, it is promises. We will step up our plan. We will do this. We hope to do this. We hope to do that. I thought that the standard practice is the imitative declaration of achievements within 100 days. In that whole speech, on New Year Day, 7 months after, I think it's quite disturbing that the president could not point to concrete achievements of what his administration has been able to do. The only thing he pointed out, is neither here nor there. He said we had a successful transition in 2023. Well, he can say that because he's the main beneficiary. I don't think that those who lost out in that process would be saying the same thing. And he says he will fight every obstacle in the way of business commitment. Okay, which obstacles is he going to fight, really? Is it the foreign exchange crisis?